Welcome all. This is John, your boy, and we're back with another episode of the Just No BS podcast. I'm also with my boys over here. We got Dev, and we got Cal at the end, as always. So what's new, fellas? What's new?
This year has been an amazing year to be a Kendrick fan.
Oh, here we go.
I'll be honest. That album dropped on my old lady's birthday.
Oh,
And
you're right.
Yeah, on the 22nd. So I'm sitting there and I saw the snippet first. And I was like, okay, cool. And then Broccoli started playing. I'm not calling it Squabble Up Kendrick. You waited too long. Everybody's calling it Broccoli. It's Broccoli. So I saw that and I was like, oh, he dropped the full song today in a teaser. Wow, that looks great. Like, guess the album name is going to be GNX. And then my phone just kept playing. And then I heard another song and I was like, did this motherfucker drop an album? Went all the way to YouTube. Sure enough, he's sitting up there posted on the car. I'm like, oh.
What's crazy is I got a couple things. First of all, the same thing, it kind of happened to me. I was chilling on my computer. I saw the snippet like pop up on my feed. I'm like, oh, bet, we got a little teaser. Then I see it. I'm like, oh, he's finally got. I had the same thing. I'm like, oh, we finally dropped the full song. And then I saw like the side thing of the YouTube show another song. I'm like, hold on. So I went to Kendrick's page. I'm like, this nigga dropped an album. And he did it the old school way too. Because, back in the day, the R&B artists would always have the whole pose.
Right.
Michael Jackson, Teddy Pendergrass, pick one. They always had to slide on this either on the floor pose or they're leaning on like a car or something. So he hit us with the old school hip hop pose. Just
thank you. But yeah, man, I mean that bad boy is going like triple platinum in this household. Honestly, that phenomenal project. I love it. I like how it starts. It starts off so angry with whacked out murals. He's like pissed off, and I'm like, yes, let's keep this going. It's still fuck him. But yeah, man, how'd y'all feel?
Honestly, I'm just so blown away by the fact that he can just keep putting out banger after banger. Like, it always feels like, and I'm kind of new and everything when it comes to following Kendrick and everything, relatively speaking. But I started going back into some stuff. I'm like, he just constantly has something in the tank. Like, there are some artists who, they do great and then they kind of fall off for a little bit and then, they take some time off and then come back up again. He just is always on it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
What's crazy to me is I think, to me, this is almost like the Black Panther, the comic book album, or the MCU movie album, the first one, where like dang near almost every song is perfect except for one thing. The only thing about the album is that beat switch up on GNX. Like, I feel like it just got missed by like a hair of a fraction of a second. Like that like weird piano switch up. Like, the song is great, but like it's just that one moment where I'm just like, ugh, you could have mixed that just, and that just shows how good that album was. Because when I listened to Luther, I'm like, how are you and SZA harmonizing like this?
Yeah, right?
I was not. That hit me. I was like, wait a minute, hold on. SZA could sing, but like,
what? You can hold a note. Kendrick can hold a note.
Yeah.
My only complaint, really two complaints. My first complaint is Dodger Blue is too short. I love that song. It's amazing. And I get it. Like, you're in the shorter attention span era. You want to like give people something good and get out their face. And that way they can go back and just replay it and run those numbers up. I get it. That's my only complaint about that. The second thing is, hurry up and drop the other album, brother.
You're on the camp that's saying it's a double album.
It's a double album, Jay. So everything alludes to this is a double album. Everything. He throws little bars in there like, I'll double back with the deluxe. All of, like, he's Even in the music video, he had two GNXs there. One was on, he was hopping out of it. The other one is just sitting there. Why you gonna call the album GNX and have two GNXs, J-Zo? Huh? Why?
Fair
No.
enough.
But
Fair enough.
He's prepared with the B-side.
yeah, I just want to hear the other part because I felt like this was amazing from a standpoint of like putting on for his area, like putting on for the West Coast, getting a bunch of people that we really didn't know and putting them under some great production, giving them a chance. Like I've been seeing a lot more of those guys pop up on my Twitter feed, pop up in my YouTube algorithm, like Dodie Six. I think his name is like Lefty Gunplay.
Yeah,
Um,
Lefty
just
with TV off. Yeah.
yeah, like just a bunch of, and it's like this is what we're supposed to be doing. You know what I'm saying? Like that's that whole Sankofa thing. Like after you hit where you need to hit as an artist, then you can be like, all right, let's get everybody from the area in the mix, give everybody a chance. Um, and again, this is something that the Canadians still hasn't figured out yet. Because what does Toronto sound like? When you think
Well,
of Toronto, what does it sound like?
ironically, this was something I had argued for in the past. And then seeing his behavior now made me realize that he didn't do it because initially the Canadian, aka Drake, you thought he was putting on people at OVO like Party Next Door, The Weeknd.
Mm.
Those are the two of the big ones, right?
Yeah.
But then like when you hear them talk about Drake, like now they're like, "Nah, we left. Like we want no parts of this no more." You know, so it's like,
Yeah.
and The Weeknd is like the biggest international dude right now. Like that man, everyone silently forgot. He had like the biggest world tour last year, like bigger than Beyonce and Taylor Swift at one point. So like, how'd you drop that bag, bro? Like,
Yeah.
Mm.
I mean, it was that energy was always weird because it was like my classic from Drake because I feel like he has one in a possible when it comes to classics for me. And the first one is
albums.
Take Care. Yeah.
Yep.
Take Care is the first one for me, and then you can argue nothing was the same. But then when I heard about all of the writing the Weeknd did on Take Care, and then he like how he treated the Weeknd afterwards, he was like one of those like part-timey friends. We're kind of beefing, but not really beefing. But I'm not gonna push her out like that. Like, and it's like, why
Yeah.
would you do that? That man, he penned some of the greatest stuff that we know you for. Why would you do that?
Facts. Like, Take Care is
Party
the
Next Door
only.
didn't get pushed like that. I was running down the OVO roster. Division was supposed to be big. They're under OVO. We don't know where they are. They're still dropping albums I think every year for the past 4 years, but they don't go anywhere. And it's just like, bro, that's not how you do it. We know everybody from that side. Absol dropped an album this year. Schoolboy Q dropped an album this year. Uh, they're not Tyler isn't a part of them at all, but he's on the West Coast. He's affiliated with them as well. Tyler dropped an album this year.
Yeah.
Um
SZA dropped
everybody
one
what last
either late last year or early this year. I think I'm pretty sure it was last year. But yeah,
oh, but it's like
yeah,
everybody's popping off over it. Doechii dropped her project this year. That was
yeah.
amazing. And it's like, where's OVO at? Like,
And this is kind of the what people are saying now, with especially since Drake and his team are suing UMG for the for the supposed boosted numbers of Not Like Us, and I'm just like, bro, you clearly are feeding into what people are saying about you. Like, you're not part of the culture because you're doing stuff that no one in the culture would do. It's a rap beef. Get in the studio. Like, come with some heat. Like, where you at?
Yeah, put
yeah,
something out there.
something. Well, he tried after the beef was over. He tried. He put out 100 gigs. He put out a bunch of songs, and none of them hit because it's like I don't know. It's like Kendrick touched him with Rogue's hand. Like he just touched him and just sucked all the power up out of him, and everybody's like, "Ew, y'all still listen to him?" And it's messed up, but it's like, and then with because Kendrick just prophesied all over this man and was like, um, you think the Bay gonna let you disrespect Pac, nigga? I think that Oakland show gonna be your last stop, nigga. Drake comes out and cancels the Oakland tour, cancels the Oakland show. It's like, wait, what? What? And then I forget. I think it's Meet the Grams because I've said it before, where Kendrick says, "Fuck a rap battle. This is a lifelong battle with yourself." And even in this lawsuit, Drake trying to like expose that they're using bots and everything else like that. The reason that line sticks with me with this specific situation is because we know that you're a beneficiary of bots, my nigga. We
Mhm.
know.
Of all
Like,
the artists that benefits from this like current generation of how music works, it's Drake, because he
yeah,
does the thing where like he hops on the new wave and then tries to take over the new wave, and he's been doing that for years. Like you're not beating the allegations like this.
no.
Mhm.
And
People are
then,
catching on.
yeah, even if you do want to really take this thing to trial, and they're like, all right, cool, we can show you that we throttle Kendrick's numbers a little bit. Fine. Let's go. Let's open the books for the past decade. Let's see how many bots we put on your albums, how many playlists we put you on, because they had to pay people in 2018 because they were putting Drake on everybody's playlist. Even if you didn't want to listen to him, you'd listen to like, I don't know who was popping a couple years ago, like Ray Shrimmer or something like that. And then next it would be like a feature from Drake, and then it would transition you right into Drake songs. And they had to
Mhm.
pay people out because of that. People are like, we don't want this. We have our playlist for a reason. But it's
Yep.
like, bro, this whole era of ass music you've been making, like you've benefited from bots, my guy. Like,
Yeah,
I don't know what to tell
he's benefited from the low effort, not really caring, just kind of jumping on the wave. And what
you.
this also showed me is that Drake is Drake lied. He's not a hip hop historian, because
Mm.
if he's complaining about little payola, let me key you into something, Drake. Hip hop's always been like that. From old school, slip the DJ your disc to play at the club, or like I'm gonna throw this 100 to the radio station. Pre-internet age, I'm gonna slip 100. Here's a new track coming from the south. Play this. Like it's always been a thing. But
Always.
Mhm.
it's always been a thing. But at the end of the day, what made you really hot is if that song was a bop. If
Yeah.
that the song,
Mhm.
like, yeah, you used a little bit of something to get through the door. But once you were in that door, whether you stayed or you didn't stay, was whether you were hot or not.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's why the 2000s are littered with a bunch of one-hit wonders.
Yeah. And then the random people like Ja Rule and Nelly who are like, they stuck to their lane. They stood in their lane. Drake messed up. Well, before I say that, hold on. And to the people like Funk Flex, like the Radioheads and stuff like that up there in New York trying to be like, yeah, Drake is right, the payola thing. Funk Flex, shut the fuck up. Because y'all were out up there boxing out Joey Badass. You thought I forgot. Y'all were up there saying Joey Badass will not get play on New York radio. He's a New York artist. And then you turned your back on him. Y'all tried to shame ASAP because he was, brother carried a purse or whatever and had braids, and the women liked him. They called him cute. Y'all didn't like that. So y'all boxed out those two people. And now look what New York has been stuck with for the past 10 years. You had a snitch. You got a girl with a scar on her lip, literally named Scar Lip. A bunch of drill guys who die or get indicted. Dave East didn't do shit. You see what I'm saying? Like, y'all did this to yourselves.
Yeah,
Stop acting brand new.
New York hasn't had like a big artist since basically what, Nicki Minaj, essentially.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh,
Like, grand
Cardi,
level.
Cardi,
Cardi, yeah, Cardi.
yeah,
Like,
Cardi.
what? Cardi's
Sorry,
put like one
I
album.
apologize, internet. Cardi B, since Cardi B,
Since
but
Cardi
yeah,
B.
yeah.
Mhm.
But it's like y'all did this, and that's why I'm like I'm glad with this um this anti-establishment energy that Kendrick's bringing into it, and it's like I don't give a fuck about any of y'all. Fuck the whole industry. Where he was like, even in the song from GNX, where he's like, y'all laughing about, and then I think the blank thing is laughing about P Diddy when all of y'all on trial. All of y'all are all weird. That's And that's what needs to happen. Is burn this shit down, bro. Give us the Machiavelli type album. Burn it all down.
You know what I find crazy? We started off this year with Cat Williams saying, "Hey, the truth is gonna come out," and we're ending this year with the truth done came
The truth
out.
is coming out.
No. Yeah.
Oh my god!
That's
But
I
yeah,
mean,
no,
you were right when you said he isn't a historian. I
yeah.
agree. Like, at least when Ja Rule got murdered by Eminem and them,
I
um,
mean, he tried.
he
He just
tried.
He just took it. He just took it to a level that he was not prepared for. But he was. It's not like he was like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and sue Eminem now." Like, nah, they ethered him and called it a day.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then
He took the hit and
yeah,
moved on.
he took the hit. He walked in there. The DM said, "What's your AC? Why do you need my AC? What's your AC?" That's what happened. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
he took some damage, Bucko. But at least he went out and was like, "I don't give a fuck. Your mom's a crackhead. Your daughter's gonna grow up to be a hoe." And that's what he went out on. It was like, okay, cool, whatever, Ja Rule. Drake is going down kicking and screaming and embarrassing himself. Like,
That part.
just go out, be like, "Hey, bro, Kendrick got me. Salute." You know what I'm saying? Y'all can expect like a new R&B album from me or whatever the case may be. Like, not running the XQC and shit like that. That's weird.
See, to
That's
me, I think whoever is, I don't even know if someone's talking to Drake about strategy, but like, because I will say because the particular accusation of him being a pedo is kind of what you have. You're not dodging that one either way without like concrete evidence or history of like, nah, this never happened. Unfortunately, Drake's got the history of being just not
touching the line.
just this close to like he's got the history where he's just like there were no activities, but
Yeah.
you doing some weird stuff, bro.
See,
That's
on that topic right there, like, I feel like all the, protesting that he's doing and everything just makes me kind of look at it a little bit more like, I don't know. Did you, though?
And he's not doing himself any favors, yes. And then the people, the celebrities who have come out and like talked about how it is to party with them aren't doing him favors. Because the MMA guy, Israel Adesanya, I think.
oh
Um,
yeah.
Mm.
The guy
he
likes
was
doing Naruto poses, yeah.
yeah, super in the anime, dope dude. But he was like, yeah, like you guys don't. He's on like Joe Rogan's podcast or something like that. He's like, yeah, you guys don't know what it feels like to party with Drake. Like Drake will just like order a busload of women from somewhere, and they'll pull up in a van with no windows on it. It's like this sounds like trafficking, Bucko. You need to
It's
calm down. Y'all are finna make this cake. Okay,
I mean it's
okay,
it's the parallel with the Diddy parties. Like there's
yeah,
that thing where it's just like you do stuff in public where like you make it look very plausible that
mm-hmm.
behind the camera you were doing some stuff. Like
Mm-hmm.
Some weird stuff. And I won't get into all the because I got bored. I listened to another podcast, Thought Crime. Shout out to them, respectfully. Been listening to them for years, and they were doing their own stuff and be like, "Hey, if you don't believe us, here's the information. Go double check its validity." James, I saw some stuff, and I'm like, "Yeah, Drake, shut up, because this can get very, very bad for you. Very,
this
very
is
bad."
this is why a couple episodes ago I said, man, just shut up, go disappear, go don't let no one see you for 5 years. And in those 5 years, if people do happen to see you, do not show up with anyone that looks under the age of 25. Like just
Mm-hmm.
Pull a Leo. Pull a Leo. Just Leo's cutoff age is you hit 25.
well,
That's it.
no. But the thing is, Leo does it worse because he keeps feeding the accusations. Also, it was just unfortunate. Well, not unfortunately, he keeps feeding.
Look at him.
Yeah, unfortunately, in the eyes of the viewing public, because he's not cutting off the allegations, people can still make assumptions about it. The only difference is that he's never gotten himself in any kind of beef and or trouble. That's the key
Yeah.
difference.
Yeah.
So it's just he's just a little awkward because he happens to like dating people that are significantly younger than him. It's that other actor too that he's like 80 and he has like someone he was dating was like 30 or something. But like it's just one of those things like yeah, you go from weird to you doing some other stuff
Yeah.
where you start getting in trouble. People
Yeah.
leave it at, most people just leave it at weird if you never bother people and you stay out the public eye and just do what you do.
Mhm.
But once you cross that barrier, I'm gonna get this beef, I'm gonna get in this trouble or whatever.
Mhm.
One, especially when you get the Southern District of New York looking up your ass with a microscope, raps.
Mm-mm. Like that was before we transition to the next joint. I'm gonna say this. I was a big fan of Freddie Gibbs, right? Listen to Freddie Gibbs. I know people from Indiana. Like I got part of my family specifically from Gary. Um, and they're like, "Oh no, like Gibbs is cool, like da 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 da." So I'm like, "Okay, Gibbs raps well," but then you had certain other people being like, "He's kind of weird." Stay on your toes around Freddie Gibbs. It was like, okay, whatever. Heard he got in trouble in Europe, got jammed up for like some type of essay or something like that. I don't know the specifics about it. But then he kept dropping good music. So it's like, did he really do it? I don't know. Pinata sounds kind of good. And then randomly, I think last year, top of this year, came out to where he's sending naked booty pictures to white women. Why are you spread eagle? Exactly. Just why are you spreading yourself like this? Frederick Gibbington, what are you doing, my brother? But again, he's not big enough or high profile enough of an artist for like that to, you see what I'm saying, being like career ending. But I guarantee you, if that was Drake, if Drake had one of those like on camera, oh, that's over. That's over.
He'd be done.
Yeah, like that's especially after all of these allegations and Kendrick throwing it into the zeitgeist, and everybody's like, I think he is a pedo. Let that come out. Because you exposing your dick to the internet was grounds for me to be like, niggas a pedo. Whatever they say he did that shit. It wasn't even no bitches. Where were the bitches? Where were the bitches? Why are you just showing us your dick, bro?
And that's the thing. It's like you do the thing, like technically, because I mean, in all retrospect, the dick video is almost the same thing as Shannon Sharp's,
Yeah.
live. Like it's in the same realm. Unfortunately, Shannon Sharp doesn't have the history, and it's just like, oh, he old, it's one off. People are going to give him a slight pass on that one, especially since he played it as in, hey, look, that was unintentional. We didn't. That wasn't supposed to happen. Yada yada yada. Like especially as he owned up to it and just took his L.
Yeah.
But
and then got endorsed by a sex pill company right afterwards. Like,
hey,
that's
that's how you spin it.
That's how you spin it. That's how you do it.
You take your L and spin it, but
Drake, you earned this. You can't like, bro. You're up here trying to do that weird shit you did, trying to talk about a man's wife by name in a diss back and forth. I don't know where you thought this was gonna go, saying his kids weren't his. Like, yes, I'm calling you a pedophile if you do that, especially if it looks like you have some tick 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 on you. I don't even need to see you. I don't need to see an R. Kelly video. You're a pedophile. Deal with it. Now the hook comes. Like, cool.
Especially since that whole Millie Bobby Brown thing just
nasty.
Bro, just what? No, never. The melanin in his soul was not strong enough apparently, because I don't no.
Yeah.
Heck no. Bro, you were like, at that time you were like 28 or something. Why are you text? No. So, but yeah, that's weirdness. And this is kind of why, Kendrick kind of captivates the culture and speaks to it so well. Because it's just like he's putting out realness into art, and that realness is being reciprocated by the art. So in that same fashion, I figure we can flip the context a little bit and kind of get to our main topic. So I was watching a series of podcasts, a couple of podcasts, one from Resonant Arc. They're great, like game thought provoking podcast group. I was just watching some various stuff, and it kind of got me thinking about like some of the games that like captivate or define who you are as a person. For a lot of people, there are just like those series of games where like, even if you've only played them a certain number of times, or you only played it once, but it just really spoke to you. So like, for the main topic of this episode, I just kind of go through the top 10 games that kind of, or game series that captivated you, and like, if you never played those, you wouldn't be who you are today. So these are kind of, we're each going to go through 10. We reviewed some of these in advance already for our audience. A few of us got some double ups or some of that, some talking points on several games. So we're just going to kind of go through each one by one and just kind of go off the cuff here, and then we'll just have a conversation and we'll break down relatively like quickly why why this game spoke to us particularly so much, and we'll just like I said, we'll just let it rock and have a great conversation from there. So who wants to go first, or should I just kick it off?
Hey, go for it.
All right. So anybody who knows me, I am a huge JRPG fan, Japanese role playing games. For anyone who knows, I am a huge JRPG fan. Um, if it's a JRPG, I've either played it, heard about it, or beaten it to the ground. So this first one is basically why I love JRPGs. My first one is Tales of Symphonia. Initially came out on the GameCube in like 2000 or 99. No, that sounds about right. Or 2001, something like that. But yeah, it just reminds me of like one. It's that game is an adventure. You actually run around the world map, going to different places, and that game just inspired and sparked my love of JRPGs beyond anything else. Um, any other game. And actually, I'm pretty sure Tales of Symphonia is much later. It's not. It's not 2001. That's way too far back. So I'm actually gonna double check the year on that one. Yeah, it's like '04. But
Yep.
yeah, that game, like, and then the series of that games, like I've at that point where I've played pretty much every game in that series in one way or another. I just love the charm, the voice acting, just that game defined the whole. This is how you become a man in such like a good way. And the story of that game, like to this day, if I ever feel like, you know what, I want to replay a game, that game's always at the top of my list, and I'll replay it until I'm old and gray. I will replay that game every time. So yeah, my first one's still Symphonia. That game just speaks to me in so many different ways. I'll let you know what, Devin, you go next. I'll shotgun it to you.
All right. So my first pick was actually again kind of going into the same category there. I love JRPGs. But I didn't originally start with that. I've been playing video games since I've been around 3 years old because my mom owned a Nintendo and an Atari. So whenever she was at work, and my grandma was taking care of me, there was really nothing for me to go and do. So she just watched me as I played that. I didn't know what I was doing back then, but I grew up with it. That said, there's one game called Wild Arms 2. So it's the second in the series of Wild Arms here. Uh, I picked it up completely randomly. It was during a time that my mom had a part-time job at one of those like movie rental places where they also rented out the games as well. And most of the games I already knew about, so on and so forth. And occasionally I would help her, with like restocking some of the stuff. And my mom, instead of, paying me money, she would just go and say, hey, every once in a while, I'll let you go ahead and rent one of the games out. I'll put it on my account. So I kept seeing this game, Wild Arms 2, and I'm like, I don't know anything about this. I like the art on it, though. I keep reading the back of it. It sounds kind of interesting. Didn't know what JRPGs were at the time. Eventually, I had done enough work. My mom's like, all right, you can grab one. I grabbed that. Man, I absolutely love that game. It was my very first JRPG, and that's what kind of started me on that entire path from that point. If it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have gotten into JRPGs like Final Fantasy, Persona, and so on and so forth. Um, I probably wouldn't have had the same interest that I do now in Japanese culture. And then by proxy, I wouldn't have had as much interest in Chinese culture as well, because that's where that all spread. I'm an international affairs major, and I probably wouldn't have even gone that direction if it weren't for picking up that game in '99.
You said video
So,
rental stores, man. Oh man.
Yeah,
mhm.
I'm listening.
But yeah, it was a game that also kind of uh, taught me a little bit about overcoming adversity because it has three main characters. All of them basically have some major issues that are going on from the very beginning of the game. Uh, one guy was literally put in prison, for something that he didn't do, and he has to constantly prove himself. Another guy, he was basically part of like this night group, and then most of them got killed off, and then he kind of got turned into like a half demon kind of thing, and he had to go past all those allegations because everyone's after him. The third person was, a magic caster in a place where magic was basically banned, and they were like, oh hey, if you use magic then you're a terrible human being, so she had to go and prove that as well. Everything that they had to do was just constantly everything's up against them, and this is how you overcome that. And that to me kind of spoke to the younger me, like, oh hey, this is what you got to do sometimes.
Oh, okay. Well, mine is symbolic for me in its own way, which was NBA Live 2005. Um, that right
100%.
there, because it had the intro song was by Missy Elliott, not Missy Elliott, MC Light. Um, great, great femc, if you want to differentiate and things like that. And I remember hearing her verse like in the intro as a kid, and I was like, I don't know who this woman is, but she's rapping. And then that like by itself introduced me to MC Light, which then introduced me to Queen Latifah, which then like I started going down the women classic hip hop rabbit hole. And I was like, gee, again, at the age of 12, I'm not thinking like women can really rap like that because I'm born right after the like Lil Kim, all of this music era. I'm born after that. So going in as like a kid right before you hit your teenage years, again, this is why my kid will not get just unchecked access to the internet, because you weird red pill niggas be doing stuff and be catching these young motherfuckers young and brainwashing them. But right as I'm hitting adolescence, I'm like, no, women can really pack some of y'all up badly, like just off of the skill alone. So I'm listening, like I listen to the whole soundtrack of the game, obviously, while I'm playing the game. But then that's early on in my life when I started to like be able to like multitask heavily. So I'm like listening to a new album while playing the game. Um, and the like everything, the game itself, like the slam dunk competition was amazing. At the time, it's 20 years ago at this point. It looked realistic to us because we didn't have fucking
Yep.
ray tracing and shit like that. So it's like, oh wow, Dwayne Wade's haircut looks good. It's like, bro, this shit is pixels now. Like, don't strain your eyes. But again, it was like
It
what I
was a
was
different
learning.
time.
It was just different. So I'm like, you're doing the singular superstar thing. You developing teams, um, learning about managing teams and like the franchise mode and stuff like that. That's kind of one of the things that laid the seeds to me to go and try and get a business degree. Wasn't really passionate about it. I just like seeing how you can move numbers around. And that was just dope, man. The bonding experience with my brothers, like we all had our creative players. We put them on a team and play against each other and stuff like that. So like, yeah, NBA Live 2005 was that for me.
I feel you, and this is one of those things about captivating us now that I have concerns about the kids in this generation with games now. Like, I don't know if I'm unsure. I'm not gonna say I don't know. I'm not gonna say it's yes or no. I'm just unsure if the games have the same impact as they did for us 20 years ago. Like, I'm just not sure.
Mm-hmm.
And as we go through more of our games, we can kind of further that discussion. But like, things had more meaning to us a little bit. So I'm unsure. So on that end, we'll kind of snake it around. So Caleb, you go ahead with the second one.
Oh, okay. My second one is Skyrim. Period, point blank. Skyrim came out November 11th, 2011. Um, that
That
was
just
my. Go ahead.
sorry, no, that just shows you that they're due to drop 6, man. Skyrim's been around for like almost 15 years. Come on, bro.
Stop teasing us, bro. We don't want Elder Scrolls Online. You money hungry motherfuckers. Give us the Skyrim that we want. Stop this. But no, Skyrim was amazing. Playing through it the first time, like the vanilla version, no DLC, no mods, no anything. You feel like super immersed into it. I would not recommend this to someone unless they're like they actually play video games, because there's a lot of like just normal things that you know, our expectations in video games and buffs and weaknesses and da 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 and skill trees. It's a lot to consume if you're just not adept at video games for real, for real. But again, senior year, I remember playing it. I know the background music. I know the regions music. At this point, like I still randomly hear it in my head, like doom 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 doom. Like, and I hear it because I spent, when I say hundreds of hours on this game, I literally, if you go through and break it down, I probably spent a good 500 hours crafting stuff, like just going around collecting shit to craft stuff. And like that, again, we play D&D here. That my love for like potions and wild magic and stuff like that comes from Skyrim. I love like potions and poisons and being able to determine what an enemy can do against you. Like that comes from Skyrim. I love that shit, bro. I can't lie. And then they had the audacity to let us put mods on that motherfucker on console. On console. Oh my god, I have played through that game at least 14 times. Like top to bottom, with all the DLC storylines, with all the modded storylines, even unique mods. It was like a clockwork mod thing to where you had to like go around talking to people about this god, these people undergo. And if you committed like a sin or anything, it would destroy the whole area, destroy your save, and then you'd have to start back from the beginning. Like I did shit like that with Skyrim. Again, being a black kid in high school who was openly a nerd, my life wasn't that bad for real. Because motherfuckers knew, yeah, Cal be playing his saxophone and playing this nerdy Skyrim shit, but he will hurt you. And again, I put a lot of people on to Skyrim, which then put people on to like World of Warcraft or whatever high fantasy nerd pathway you walk down. Like that's, again, Skyrim was the starting block for a lot of us, people who weren't normally like engaged in that type of content. But give me a second, Jay, so I'll be right back.
I'll definitely keep it going in the meantime.
All right. So my next one also holds a special place in my heart. One, because of the game itself, and two, because of the events that happens afterwards there. So, Final Fantasy X. At that point, once we got to 03, I was really into JRPGs at that point. I'd really been playing them again since like 99, up until that point. I that was when we started getting into the PS2 era of things. So we had that increase in the graphics, the music quality, it also jumped up. So everything was looking great on that game. Uh, I have to admit that I played way too many hours of Blitzball, probably more than I played the entire rest of the game combined. Not to go and say that the rest of the game was bad or anything, but just Blitzball was just that good and that addictive. That said, it also kind of got me in a little bit of trouble as well, because that was right around the time that, and John knows this story, I went through a game apocalypse of sorts, where it was a summer where I'm like, oh, hey, I'm just taking some summer classes to get ahead, so I could graduate early. And I had gotten a few weeks ahead in one of the classes. So I'm like, all right, let me go ahead and take a break. Let me spend this summer enjoying myself, playing some Final Fantasy X, really grinding, getting into stuff. I'm watching, TV shows like X-Play and so on and so forth on G4. And they were also dropping tips of like, oh, hey, you can use this code for like your sky ship and everything to get to certain places. And they'd only put it every other episode, so I'd have to watch that and write them down, then go back to the game. Well, meanwhile, I wasn't doing any of the homework for that class because I was like, oh, hey, I'm ahead. I forgot to go and read that you're supposed to turn in at least one assignment every week, regardless of where you are. So teacher ended up calling my mom, told her like, oh, hey, I'm almost about to go and drop your son out of the class, even though he's ahead, he's not following that rule. My mom only heard half of that, went berserk, and took every single one of the games that I had, my early collection, threw all of it out.
Oh,
Final Fantasy X was the last game that I played before that all went out. That said, years later, I buckled down, ended up buying it myself with my own money once I had my own job and so on and so forth. But that was the first game that I bought when I finally started getting games again. So it was the end and the beginning.
I
Yeah.
think it's abusive, bro.
Psychological warfare right there. I'm saying I was broken for a while there. Like, there are a few things in life that you can really bother me with. That was like my one thing. And my mom knew to hit that, and like, okay, what am I doing this for? Uh, you know, even that for one particular line from one particular game, what are we fighting for?
Oh man.
Which kind of leads into, something for John there.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and hit a twofer here. So first, before we take that reference, one of the games on my list is also Final Fantasy X. So we'll just go ahead and knock that off at the same time. For me, Final Fantasy X. So as a correction, Final Fantasy X initially came out in 2001, immediately after the it came out in that era where Square Enix was trying to create a system called Play Online, which was going to be the introduction to 3 games. The system only wound up working for their online game, Final Fantasy XI, but it was part of that era where they were trying to start integrating the internet, essentially. That being said, Final Fantasy X for me holds a different place because I actually never got it initially when it came out. I got it as a teenager, probably a couple years later, like 05. Like, yeah, I was like 13 when I got my first copy of it. So, obviously the game's been out for years at that point, like 4 years. But for me, it was the first game I got on my hand-me-down PS2 that I owned completely myself. And that game to me came to me at a time where I was 13. We're going through puberty, but that game was like the first step for me being able to get past the fact that my dad wasn't in my life, because the main character Tidus has the same issues. He's got daddy issues as well. In that regard, where like I resent my dad. He wasn't really there for me. He treated me like crap, yada yada, so on. So his growth throughout the game and being able to finally go full circle and accept his dad, like that hit home to me the biggest part, to the point where like it taught me how to basically like don't put that trauma onto the women you date. Like, be better than that. Like, your future is not tied to necessarily how you got here, but it's what you do with it. And like those are the lessons I learned to that game, to the point where like that game is going to be in my top 10 games all time. I don't care if they make the world's most perfect game. It's got ray tracing, 8K, runs at 160 frames per second. I don't care. That game is always going to be in my top 10. So like, and then of course, the fun stuff like hours of Blitzball, completing the 200 Thunderball challenge. You name it,
Still haven't done that.
Oh my, yeah, no,
I've tried so many times.
I did it multiple times. Like, it's a running joke between me and several of my friends. Where like, I will buy that game in every version they made it, just because I love that game so much. I got it on PlayStation 2. I got the remaster collection, the initial one on PlayStation 3. They remastered it again, and I bought it. It doesn't matter. I'm getting that game. So yeah, Final Fantasy X is also on my list for various reasons as well. So now to Devin's initial joke. He was making a joke about what are we fighting for on one of my games of all time also, Mega Man X4. That game just brought the new age of like robotics and how cool robots could be to me. And then that game was like the ultimate platformer. Like, you wanted to run, jump, and shoot things, there it is. And like, I grew up with Mega Man. My older brother played lots of Mega Man games, but that was the game I could beat. The very first one. I'm like, oh, I could actually do this. I got this. And then one cool thing they always did at Mega Man games, especially the X series, is once you beat it, they would tell you one of the secret codes so you can replay it with the secret code and do it again. So Mega Man X4, if you beat it legit the first time, He goes, yeah, you beat it with X. Here you go. Now, do you want to use the ultimate armor? Here's the code. Uh-huh. They just tell you the code so you can, all right, let me load it up and do it again and become a god. And if you beat it with 0, they're like, at the end of the game, hey, here's the black armor code. Go look cool. Beat the game again. Like, and then that just increased my love of platformers. Like, I played every Mega Man X game growing up, and then once I got a computer and you could do certain things to play games of an older generation, I won't say words due to the internet, but it starts with an R, ends with an emulator, and yeah, went back, played a lot of games thanks to Mega Man X4. But yeah, that game also hours and hours of fun with my cousins because they had a PlayStation at the time. Oh man, just oof, those are some good ones, man. Yeah, so that is technically our second, starting our third round of games here. Any comments or thoughts before we move on to the next set of games here?
I would like to say one last thing about Skyrim.
By all
I
means.
loved how. So I was in when I went to college or whatever. Um, like I'm a very, I won't even say dualistic person. Like I'm a multifaceted person. So like some of my best friends are some hood ass, ratchet ass niggas who be on nothing but bullshit. Be outside doing all types of stuff, all the way over to like individuals who've never done a nefarious act in their life, blah blah blah. But like I remember a beautiful thing happening where I was like playing in the dorm room and like on the weekends or whatever, like we would typically all prop our doors open because somebody would be playing like a college game, like a college football game was actively live. So you would like go over there, see what was going on. Other people would be having like NCAA tournaments, Madden tournaments, da 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 da. And you could just like kind of move around, be where you wanted to be. And I was like just playing Skyrim on the TV that we shared in the room. And it was like a situation to where people were just kind of like going around, walking into people's doors, seeing what was going on. And I was doing music at the time, so people kind of sort of knew my face, if not just knew me. They're like, "Oh, what's Cal doing in here?" And I'm in there working my way through like a bandit camp, going crazy in Skyrim, like fireball, fuck you, electricity because you're wet, da 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 da, like. And it was like, bro, what's this nerdy ass shit? And then quietly, people would just come in and sit down and would just watch. And it went from, what's this nerdy ass shit? And it's like, no, this shit kind of tough. Like, this motherfucker just summoned a pack of dogs and they over there fighting them bandits. But da-da-da, and people are just watching it because underneath it all, it's still like a natural curiosity. Um, and it was just, I don't know, it was just a weird bonding thing. And I was like, oh, if y'all want, like, we got hop on the sticks at NCAA. And they're like, no, I've never seen this shit before. Like, I've never seen this game before. Like, keep cooking. And we were just in the room, just so stuff like that. Like that's I don't know, like that's the purpose of all of this art that we talk about here and all of it that we consume, like not just music and movies, but video games as well have a great community based situation built into the culture of it because it's people literally on like Twitch or I don't even know if caffeine's around any longer. I remember there was another game like a streaming platform mixer. Um, all of these different joints to where people will literally just pay you to sit and watch you play a one player game just to see how you make decisions and how this can change your story's outcome. And like that's community baked into all of this stuff that we love. That's just what I want to say. I think it's a beautiful fucking thing. But
No, I agree. And this is, again, this goes back to our first round. I'm like, I have concerns about the gaming industry culture now because, like, I'm just gonna throw out there a game like Black Myth Wukong should have been like this togetherness moment. Like, oh, this game is dope. It's hard, but it's also in a different culture, so it should have been that. But like, it feels like people have arguments for the wrong reasons, talk about games for the wrong reasons. When growing up, especially back in the day, like when internet wasn't like all that, you know, you
yeah,
would just go to your boy's house or whoever had the games, and y'all just be like, "Yo, did you try this? Yo, do that. Hold on, hit him on this side." Like, that the engagement seems off. I'm not going to say it's
Stilted.
not there. I won't say it is there. I'm just saying it's off. Something's wrong about it. And this is also why I wanted to talk about it, because a lot of these podcasts that kind of gave me this idea, I'm just like, the culture around gaming is just so different now. It is both more worldwide and still insular all at the same time. And
And I think
well,
that before I say my game and we keep going, this is a quiet tangent. This isn't a full rant. I think it was very intentional for them to kill coach co-ops because that's
couch co-ops, yeah.
yeah, couch co-op used to bring you in. You used to be able to play with your sibling right there. Just plug in a different controller, and that was community based. And like that used to do a thing as to where you could like figure out what your like sibling, your best friend, your significant other, or whatever, what they like to play, and that naturally like boom. Now that's a community of two, and then you run into another couple. Oh, we like da 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 too. Boom, that's four people, and then it multiplies like that, as opposed to now to where the majority of it is like, cool, you want to play a game with your brother? I got four brothers. Cool, you want to play a game with your brother? Buy another console, bitch, and play online together. No, we're not giving you coach co-op. Like, and it's like, why would you? I get it, you want to make money, but it's like, if you make a great game that four people can line up and play together, naturally it's going to bring in more money. Because
Yeah.
think about, the controllers have to get bought, more controllers have to get bought. When people go back home, they want to take that experience and play with their friends. So now more controllers, more games, more consoles, more. And it's like, why would you do this? It seemed, in my mind, extremely short sighted, and just this lust. I don't know, late stage capitalism. That's it. That's
Yeah.
To add on to that, I think that's one of the major changes that I've never been a fan of. I think that both online play as well as playing on your couch, with a friend or two, could have coexisted. But I think another thing to kind of talk about that experience where, hey, you're playing a game and some friends come over and you're all kind of talking about it together, that has now kind of been replaced by streaming. Now we have like Let's Plays and stuff on Twitch and so on and so forth. Not to go and say that that's bad or anything, but while everyone is there and everyone's watching, they're not necessarily engaging as much with each other. They're like, you used to go and have when you're just playing in your room and so on and so forth.
agree. Agree.
Yeah. And to kind of, before we jump to the next one, the thing that's interesting, like you said, it's so short sighted, Cal, because like, think about the price of some of these things now. Your average game costs you like $60, right?
Yeah.
The controller, an additional PlayStation 5 controller costs you $80. So if you made a co-op game for 60 and there's a couch co-op option, that person, especially if they have friends that live near them, relatively speaking, because obviously not everyone has it, but some people, like an extra Joy-Con set from Nintendo's like $60, an extra PlayStation 5 controller is like 80, Xbox controllers are like 65. Like, just those facts alone, having extra controllers is going to get you a little extra money. So, like, come on. Like what kills me is the fact that they never made another, like, guitar rhythm game since the good old
Yeah.
days. Like, we're talking,
Mhm.
those accessories alone would run you up like another, like, 150.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
like, even that in and of itself, they probably don't want to pay for the licensing of the songs, but like, that could make some money, especially in this day and age. You can make so much content off that. The fact that people don't do it is, it's still
And
bonkers to
that's
me.
the
Like,
issue with hiring people who aren't gamers to work in gaming companies. Because as a person who's actively looking for a job right now, I can tell you, like, I should not see any gaming companies posting like advertisements for hiring. Period. You should be promoting from within because it's people who already know your system, who work within it, who know what the pros and cons are, who know, you see what I'm saying? So like, you expecting someone to what? You're expecting somebody who, if you're in Naughty Dog, you're expecting somebody from Bungie to come over and fully be like, oh, I picked up all this shit. Here's where you need to grow better than the people who've been there this whole time. Like that's, and
to
then so
me,
you're just essentially hiring people who are like, oh, I went to Stanford for business analytics and storyboarding. Have you ever worked with a video game company before? No. Here's my GPA. Here's my recommendation. Here's my. Da-da-da. It's like, no, bro, because this is how we got here. People
So
just putting these people in positions and then playing musical chairs so that they have pseudo work experience in the industry. And it's like, why are we doing this shit, bro?
so to me, the actual issue isn't it's not quite that to me. It's the people that have been the artists of video, like the game developers, the people that have been the artists creating these games are no longer the people with the power to create said games. Most of the time, it's people that are just worried about making money. That's why the last 5 years, all Sony's tried to do is make another live service game, which all have failed because there's no artistry in it. It's clear that you're just trying to extract extra money when what you rather should have been doing is creating high quality experiences. Because all your Sony products that have high quality experiences, Horizon Zero Dawn, God of War,
Last
um,
of Us.
Last of Us, like all of those games that have high quality experiences, all did gangbusters because they connected with people and people were just like, you gotta play this game. Red Dead Redemption from the Xbox side of things, like the games that are actually heck, GTA 5 to this day still makes money. Forget the online part. People still rebuy GTA 5.
Yep. They make $1 billion a year in microtransactions alone. There's no
Yeah,
excuse. There's no excuse. I don't know what to tell you. That's passive income for a gaming company. Are
yeah,
you dumb? Just give us a good product.
yeah. And that's what they're lacking. They're trying to get to the how do we get extra money when if you make a solid product first, you can then build the extra money off of that. Whether you make different franchises based on it or you have a microtransaction system. Heck, Helldivers 2 was a great product and it just so happens to also have microtransactions as part of it. People will spend the extra money if you give them a great product and then there's more they can build off that. Like I have friends that played Helldivers 2 that have not spent a dime and have still been able to get everything. They just put more hours to the game. And the law of averages tells you if you put more hours to a game, there's a moment where you're like, you know what, I might swipe just because you put the hours in the game. So
Yeah.
it's short-sightedness. And actually, I'm going to use that to transition to a game that is one of my favorites that I put hours into. And if I had the capability, I probably would have spent some money on. For me, it is Fantasy Star Online. I'm going to jump into that game. That game was a game that came out on the Dreamcast initially. So we're talking 98, 97, something like that. Eventually got ported to the GameCube after Sega and the Dreamcast fell because they were ahead of their time, but they just did not have the security to protect themselves. Because the Dreamcast was the first console system to have online features. Sega was literally like 3 years ahead of their time. They just unfortunately they did not have real security protections on their DVD disc, so you could literally just copy and paste a game and give it to your friend, and they would have a copy. Like that's where they messed up. If it wasn't for that and they had actual security, Sega would have been killing the market. But yeah, Phantasy Star Online is a pseudo MMORPG. So for anyone who doesn't know what an MMORPG, it stands for Massively Multiplayer Online Role-Playing Game. That game basically was like a sci-fi Skyrim-esque type game where you could build your like futuristic character, you would have magic, you could get different types of weapons. What made it so unique was that it had an offline and online mode. You had an offline couch co-op, so you could still play with your friends if you couldn't get online with like a LAN, and then you could still go online and get all sorts of cool stuff, interact with people. And this was like, again, this was that era where they were starting to integrate the internet and figure out how to make these things work. We wouldn't really get there till like the 05, 06 generation like era where we kind of see what we get to now, but like it was that early 2000s, like 01 era of games where they were just starting to figure out how to incorporate it. And I feel like as a gamer, we kind of need to go back to that where some of these games should generically be offline with an online add-on, which allows you to expand your game online. There should still be a core game offline. And I think that's what we're missing in this day and age. Everything has to be connected to the internet now. It's missing that artistry and that beauty of what captures a lot of us from online gaming was first kind of getting big.
I agree.
And the hours you put into Skyrim were the hours I put into that game.
Yeah,
Until I was like 14, bro, I put in hours into that game.
yeah. But I'm not mad. Go ahead, Devin.
So I'm gonna skip a little bit in the list as well. Uh, so Cal, when you were talking about like all the potion creation and so on and so forth in Skyrim, that's what attracted me to another game, Mana Chemia. So that game was all about alchemy. You know, all of your equipment that you made, you had to make yourself. Any of the potions that you use, you had to make yourself. You had to get all the ingredients, farm that up, then you had to mix them together, and you also had to change the quality of all those items to get different effects. On top of that, as well, the leveling system was also based off of your alchemy as well. So you couldn't even skip that and just say, okay, well, I'm just gonna grind up, get strong enough where I could just use basic weapons and stuff like that. Uh, it really kind of taught you, like, oh, hey, if you want the best quality out of life in general, then you have to work for it, you know. And I think they did a really great job of telling that without beating you over the head with that idea. Another great JRPG. The second one was almost as good, not quite, but first one definitely worth it.
You got a two for Cal.
Yeah, so my next one is Tony Hawk Underground, affectionately labeled as Thug. I'm sorry. I'm a person who I'm a sucker for a good soundtrack. That was amazing. That soundtrack was amazing. Like, and this is in the era where I was still skateboarding, respectfully. Um, so like, and it was a beautiful thing because since a young age, I don't really like. I'm gonna be honest with y'all, the listeners, y'all can take it out what it is. I don't like playing as white people. If a game has a character creator, I'm gonna pick it because I want to see me go through whatever the story is because it makes it a little bit more. Um, I'm a little bit more invested into it, and being in a situation where I'm like born and raised in Orlando. I'm still there at the time when this game comes out, and it's not like there's not a booming skateboarding scene in Orlando whatsoever. There's not a situation that's where black skateboarders are just unilaterally accepted whatsoever. So going through that storyline, um, you kind of feel that, like like you feel like you're not supposed to be where you're getting, but you're getting there because of how good you are. And it's like that's why like one of the interesting things very early in the game, you end up in Tampa at like a pro-am competition. And it's like, damn, like it hits a little bit more to a person like me. And then you're dealing with um the betrayal from one of your best friends in the game. Well, your best friend in the game. And the whole time, like this person is a doubter, they're looking down on you, blah blah blah. Um, I didn't necessarily have that much in real life at that time. Like I even still to this day, I typically pick good friends, but there have been individuals that slipped through the cracks. So like at that time, like coming of age, you're realizing that people who you think are your friends aren't really your friends. Like they're more so operating and moving within the mind state of proximity pimping. They want to be close to you because you're going up right now. And that's it. And if they feel like they can usurp you in a way, if they feel like what do the astrology girlies call it? Destiny swap. If they feel like they can destiny swap with you by mirroring your attributes and things like that, they will. And I learned that early, so I was able to avoid those types of like emotional fallouts in my actual life because I paid attention to the warning signs within the game. Um, it sounds crazy saying that out loud, but just being honest and transparent, like I avoided a lot of weird stuff because I paid attention in video games like that in my formative years specifically. Um, I just viewed it as a beautiful thing, like you being truly who you are, doing what you want to do, and being great at doing what you want to do because you are truly being who you are. Like it's one of those like in the Kung Fu Panda, the secret of martial arts is you open up the scroll, it's a fucking mirror.
Yep.
That's what it is. That's what the journey is. Um, I
Yeah, and
just
I
just
no, I agree. And this is one of the reasons why I hate when, like, I always hated that whole video game rots your mind mentality that they tried to stick through the 90s and early 2000s. Because,
Yep.
like, I always hated that because most of the things that people would call me quote unquote intelligent for, I learned playing games. I was like, as a kid, I could not understand math until I started playing Pokemon. It is what it is. Like, numbers just didn't make sense to me. And then I started playing Pokemon on my Game Boy, an original Game Boy, and it all started to make sense. Like,
it is. But again, last bar for me, one of the I forget when Tony Hawk Underground came out.
take a
Um,
look.
yeah,
Tony Hawk Underground. The initial release date was the October 27th, 2003.
yeah. As a 10-year-old kid, that was the first time I heard Nas in the South. I heard "Whose World Is This" from Nas. And as a black boy playing a game, I'm going to private school. I'm around all white people. My dad's a pastor. I'm around a lot of white people as well as black people, but a lot of white people. And you hear this black man talking to you. Whose world is this? The world is yours. The world is yours. It's mine. It's mine. It's mine. Whose world is this? And you're hearing that. That's like reprogramming your brain. Like, bitch, I deserve this. Like, shout out to Kendrick. I deserve it all. Like, that's that. At a young age, I'm hearing that, and it's like, wow, like this is dope. And again, music, free form, poetry, freestyle, that stuff like tickles my brain every now and again. Um, so again, like that's one of my ones. That's one of my ones.
It's a good pick. What you got as your next one? You got two here.
All right. So, oh
Oh,
no, go ahead.
no.
No, you
Devin
said
jumping in. Devin
No,
on
no,
the
no,
jump
no, no,
in.
no. Go. No, you're right. You had a second one going. So go for it.
Fallout Part 3. The third one. Let me just double check the date. Give me a second. Yeah, yeah. That was '08. That was a little after all of this as well. Like I love all of the Fallouts, all of them. Obviously, New Vegas is in the clouds. Um, but like it's just something about when things find you that hit for me. The Fallout series typically always has great fucking music, absolutely fantastic music, and you're listening to some shit while you're just mowing down people. So like the murder is in the background. Like the murder doesn't even count because I'm listening to I walked into a burning ring of fire and it burns, 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 and the flame just got higher. I keep burning, burning, burning the ring of fire. And I'm just clipping shit just this whole time. Just but like that is that's one of those ones because Fallout Part 3 made me go to New Vegas. And then I was able to come forward and then play 4 and everything else like that. Um, but yeah, I just viewed it as a beautiful thing, like the stories, um, even the lore that goes into a lot of the bunkers throughout all the games. When you actually read they're not called holodecks. Um, I forget what they're called, but like the tapes that you pop into your Pit Boy and you're listening to it and figuring out why each bunker was made and stuff like that. Like that was dope to me. And then it contextualized what it would look like in a post civilized society for me. Like for some people, it was Terminator. For other people, it was, I don't know, Matrix or something. Like Fallout as a kid, it was like, we truly don't understand how wicked people can be when the safeguards are pulled off. And that's what Fallout was for me as a kid. It was like, yeah, y'all are some evil motherfuckers. But again, classic moment for me.
Bro, honestly, you should play the Horizon Zero Dawn games because they're very similar with that kind of thematic teaching of
Okay.
like the Horizon Zero Dawn's more of an action than a shooter. It's more like an action RPG, although you could technically just use your bow and arrow and whatever, but so it's more of a pseudo action RPG than a shooter, but yeah, like you would have a good time with the Horizon series.
Okay.
Um
Yeah.
very thematically along the same lines.
I'll get it when I get my PS5 because we just got married, just moved, like we don't got the space to. Yeah, that's what $600 is some change before we start looking at.
Games, yeah.
So
Which one quick thing, I saw someone posted on Reddit today that they DoorDashed a PS5 over Black Friday, and I'm like, I'm sorry, wait, what?
the fuck did
You
you
did
do?
what?
They had Best Buy was on DoorDash or something.
Exactly, and I'm like, wow, what a world we live in now.
First of all, the trusted Dasher to bring her PS5.
That was the part that blew my mind.
It's
Shoot,
like, bitch, they steal food from you. They be eating your. You trust this? Who is this? Antoine from Fulton County? You trust this nigga to bring?
Look, it's already a coin flip to get McDonald's. Like, forget a PS5.
right?
You think?
Oh man. All right, Dev, you're up. What you got?
So one quick thing before I go into my next game. Um, so Tony Hawk does happen to have a special place in my heart, just simply because playing like Tony Hawk Pro Skater with a friend of mine and getting to hang out, and we only had one controller, so we were just like, all right, cool, we're just gonna hand this back and forth, Again, that community right there.
Good times.
So.
And they have one of the best songs in video games ever. I think that was Tony. Yeah, that was Tony Hawk Pro Skater. I mean, we quick, Devin. It was the blue cartridge in the N64. Where's the dun 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 dun. I don't know the words. I just know I made up my own words. I'm fucking with the code. Yeah, that shit. Oh my! I don't know what to do. That shit is hard. But yeah, go ahead.
Man, that moment when it kind of you get that itch over your brain there, from a song. Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, so my next pick is a game series called Xenosaga.
Oh, you hitting?
So, yep. Oh man. So that game series, I want to go and be upfront. They never finished the series. They got to the third game out of 6 that they had planned, and they ended the game series on a huge cliffhanger. And then they were just like, "All right, cool, we are out of money." It is a game that first game was an absolute banger. It really defines like the whole kind of storyline of a space opera. And with that first game, that to me, it really opened up my perception to things outside of just myself, the people around me, and so on and so forth. Because it just goes into such a wide scope of everything from past, future, so on and so forth. It really, while I was playing, really got me to go and think about so many other things beyond just what's just around me. Again, probably what led me into going into international affairs, just simply because I had a better idea of, oh, hey, this is what's going on outside of my own personal country. Things that we as people are doing to the world as a whole, things even potentially beyond that. That said, first game, absolutely amazing. It's a classic. Second game, they decided, hey, we want to change up a bunch of the controls, and it was absolutely horrible. They lost most of their fan base off of that one game. The story was fine, but it was just barely playable because of how bad it was. And in the third game, they tried to go and fix that. They actually had a pretty good control system for it. The story was also a bit better as well. But by that point, they had lost so many people and lost so much money that they weren't able to continue on with the rest of the series. I hope that one day, and whatever game company, if you're listening to this, hear me, please go ahead and pick up that game, remake it, and finish it all the way. I think that it would sell, even in this day and age, if they redid that.
So
easy money.
Big money. And not ironically, me and Devin play a lot of the same games. Xenosaga was also on my list for a lot of the same reasons. I'm going to provide a little more context that he didn't, since we're basically on the same game here. So it wasn't just the money. It was also the fact that the director for the first game, who also created the concept behind the Odyssey they wanted, did not finish out the games. So basically, what happened was, after the first game, the reins were given to someone else. So they took his idea and kind of split parts of it. So what happens is, the second game was actually supposed to be the ending of the first game. But because of the way the development of the game went, they just split into two games, which is why in the second game, it's so, especially with the jacked up battle system, it's infuriating because there are long portions of that game which are more of just conclusion of the first game. So it's like a long, incomplete story. And then they had to fix that when going into the third game and wrap up his overarching idea. One thing I loved about Xenosaga that games weren't really doing until basically that early 2000s, like going into like 04, 05 generation, was using themes that we use now in the real world. Xenosaga is a game that is very, 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 very built on Judeo-Christian mythology and or religion. Shoot,
very.
Yeah, very. I had used very several times because that game, like, one of the characters is called Jesus. Like, in the third game, Jesus shows up. Like,
yeah, they don't tell you that early on, but eventually they kind of do that reveal. And like, oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Caleb, you would like this too. Semi spoiler, but not really, because there's too many spoilers to describe that as a spoiler. The black dude is Jesus.
Yeah.
Which,
and when you first meet him, it's just like, oh, hey, he's pretty cool. And then you find out, I'm like,
but yeah. So, which is also why it influenced me so much, because my current gamer tag is built off 2 games. Well, the concept of 3 games, which are all on this list. One of them is Xenosaga. The first part of my gamer tag, Chaos, is the name of the black guy who is Jesus. His name in the game is Chaos. So until the third game, when you find out who he actually is, that's his kind of story. And what really, again, like Devin said, what makes Xenosaga had such great potential is that, one, the director took all these themes and applied them perfectly to the game, in the context of the game, to the actual theme of whatever text you're referring to, whether it's the Bible or like the Quran or like the whole Christian, religion. Like, these themes, he applied them in that video game as a context, perfectly, to the point where I didn't fully understand them until I was actually studying them as a teenager, like going through Bible study and stuff. I was like, wait a minute, go back, play the game. Oh my, like, literally, like, this man was out here cooking something. That man was living in 2027. Like, some of the themes in that game were not fully understood by the people who played them until closer to our current generation. Like, it's nuts. But yeah, like I said, so the company that made it is called Monolith Soft. They probably won't go back to it because they're currently doing the Xenoblade Chronicles series, which is a completely different series that's very popular now, and I'm probably not going to double back. sad to say, but if they didn't double back on Xenoblade, there's no way they're going back to Xenosaga. Like it sadly is what it is. But it is one of those game series that, like, if you actually sit there and pay attention and write notes and see what's going on, you get mind fucked the 3 ways to Sunday and just sitting here like, what is life? But that's one of those things where it's just like, man, I don't know if games have this hit the same no more, man. I really don't. But
You
yeah.
you said that there's a before I talk about my game, there is a movie specifically that made me ask that same question. Um, like, what is life? And that was the Truman Show, because
Mm.
it was a situation as to where it's like, bro, you don't even know if the shit's a simulation or whatever the case may be. Again, I said simulation. I know how the algorithm is. Don't put us with these red pill niggas just because it's 3 men up here with beards. You're weird. Stop it. I know what you're
We're blue
doing.
pills over here, fam.
With that being said, I don't even feel like I'm interesting enough to be followed by a camera crew. However, in my divergent mind, when I saw that movie, I was like, bitch, in my own cam? Why are y'all following me? Hyper levels of paranoia. I accepted it. I was like, I'm tripping. I'm tripping. But am I? But nah, in all actuality, it was like, that was very eye opening to me. Um, and in light of the video game discussion, this is where I bring in Baldur's Gate 3 specific, because I was going through some shit at the time where I was playing this game, and spoiler alert, get out of here if you haven't played it. I'm giving you a couple. Get out. I know you want to get out of here. Baldur's Gate, when you had a situation as to where you went down to when you went down to hell to free hope. Do you see this writing, Jason? Devin, does anybody see this? You went into hell to free hope, and she's your ally to kill her own oppressor, bro.
Larian
It,
Studios knew what they were doing.
it's it's bitch. This is caviar. I don't know what you thinking this is. Like, this ain't no Big Mac. This is oh dog. And then you talk about how you have to battle yourself. You have to battle not only yourself but Hope's sibling sided with them. So obviously, like, optimism and hope and things like that would naturally be something like fear, regret, things that would limit you. And this person is there support. That's your sibling. It's like, damn, I'm playing the game. Mind you, did I eat an edible? Yeah, I did. Did the edible kick in at the appropriate time? Yes, it did. How did you know? And I'm sitting here pondering my life playing a video game version of D&D like, damn, is my hope in hell? Like, and have I been like so sucked out of my aspiration that like my hope is in a place that I have to fight to get out? Like that, hey, it's a beautiful thing. And then you see the story that obviously goes along with it. We're all operating on a clock as human beings, but then you see like, okay, the parasites in their head and the story and everything else like that. Bro, this shit, and I'm saying this after playing Divinity 1 and 2, my significant other, and like familiarize myself with Larian. And I'm like, these motherfuckers tell great stories. Damn, this shit hits. And then you get to Baldur's Gate 3. I haven't played the first two. I'm a
They're
normie.
great games also.
I don't doubt that they're great games. Bro, Apple don't fall too far. Hey, tree Apple, nigga. I don't know what to tell you. This shit looks amazing. I'm playing this and it's like, yeah, it's dope. I can do these powers. I did like my first playthrough was obviously Arcane Trickster because I like that shit. And then it was like a drow. It was a drow something. It was a drow something. And then this third time that I'm playing through as a paladin. And I don't even fuck with paladins like that. But I was just like, let's see what it's hitting for. But the level of writing, the level of care, the level of attention to detail, the level of like, bro, just balance. And it will find a way to balance encounters and things like that. Bro, this is one of the best fucking games I've ever touched a controller with in my life. It's
That is
gorgeous.
called art.
Yeah, it's just like I don't know what not you guys, but I don't know what y'all are looking at. This is something gorgeous. I can accidentally save some motherfuckers and get a beholder in a bottle. How did I do that? How did I do? And why did I throw it? And why is the beholder attacking me? We're trying to attack this nigga. Cool, we killing both of y'all. Like just this level of in-depth work just to leave room for chaos. And you get to choose what you do. I, bro, this is one of my favorite games ever. Ever. Down to the people that you can help, all the way up to the people that you can help. And you just make their lives worse by trying to help them. This is, bro, this is beautiful. It's beautiful. I love it. Highly recommend it. If you have time, if you have the resources, out of all the games that I just named, yes, I love them all. Play Baldur's Gate 3. This shit is made to be consumed. That's me.
To add on to that game, because I also played it as well, and you and I have both had several conversations about the game and our
Yes.
love for it. I love the fact that they built the story where you can play your own character. Like, of course, they give you all the story characters that you can go and play from their point of view, but you can also play your own character, and they still make all the choices relevant to you as a player.
Yeah.
I happen to, on my first playthrough, play as a warlock that kind of splashed into a paladin as well, because I like that kind of like, oh hey, you're beholden to two different entities essentially, between your pact and whatever you got that from, as well as whatever deity that you're following as a paladin.
That's fine.
And honestly, the fact that some of your choices are also based off of those choices for your class as well can also make you feel like you are fully involved as a character. So when I got to the end of the playthrough and I had to make some of those final decisions, I'm not going to say anything because I don't want to spoil anything.
Oh.
But when I had to sit there and say, okay, there are multiple options here I can go, and I don't know which one I want to go with.
What do I do?
What do I do? I literally had to sit there, staring at the screen and make some real life choices right there. Like, all right, what kind of path am I going down? Can I live with this? And this is just a game. So if you feel that tied to a game, then that's when you have officially gotten into art, in my opinion.
And I'm sorry, Derek. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No, go for it.
Depending on what you choose and what your profile is, your loadout, whatever it is, it's a beautiful thing to where you can have a conflict of faith.
Mm-hmm.
As somebody playing a character, this motherfucker ain't real. But it blurs the wall between you and the character. So now you're there responding to this person. Because I had like the Drow playthrough was different than the half elf arcane trickster playthrough because you have Drow responses, you have the worm in your head responses, you have like it's multiple things that all make sense. And it's a verse in the Bible. Choose today whom you will serve.
Mm-hmm.
Which decision are you going to make? They all make sense. Make the decision. And it's like, God damn, this shit is fucking Pulitzer Prize winning level. Just, oh my God, this shit is fucking beautiful, dog. I like that shit. That shit get my brain dick hard. Pause if necessary.
I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready.
He wasn't ready.
On that note, Devin, what you got? You're up.
All right. So speaking about faith and making choices based off of that, I'm gonna skip quite a bit over to a game called a game series Castlevania, but one particular entry is Lords of Shadow.
The first one, right?
Now, so yep, technically it counts as the very first one because you may have all heard of Castlevania and all the different games in the series and so on and so forth. Hey, you are one of the Belmonts hunting down Dracula, blah blah blah. This one was supposed to be the very first Belmont before you have Dracula, before you have all that. Just hey, you are just this guy fighting the darkness, all the bad things that go bump in the night. You are that guy because everyone else is too afraid to save themselves. Um, it that entire story kind of takes you from the point of view of a person who is uh, very pious, who is really all about his faith, and the entire game just throws stuff at you to constantly question your faith there. As someone who back then was also, kind of religious as well, that also made me question things as well. And again, if you're playing a game where you have to question, some of your own life choices outside of the game, you're doing something there.
Yeah, bro.
Constantly
And there were
twisting the knife at you.
Mhm. And there was definitely a twist ending at the ends that will make you feel some type of way. And then they turn it back around again in the second game, which was years later. And you really have a huge redemption arc that you personally feel the entire way. So I know that it wasn't the most popular Castlevania just because a lot of people were so tied into the original lore from some of the other games, the older ones. But for me, it was a reboot that I felt was needed. And it really got you tied into the character as a Belmont, as opposed to just, hey, I'm just playing this random guy with a whip.
Facts. And you know what? I'll go ahead and jump in with one of my game series that made me start even further thinking about things. For me, we're gonna talk. This is where I get on my soapbox about the Persona series, specifically Personas 3 and Personas 5. Those. So anyone who knows any about the history of SMT games, this is real quick. It's part of an overarching series called Shin Megami Tensei. Generally speaking, the game series is about dark versus light, angels versus demons, that kind of thing. Generally speaking, to not get too technical with it. Each side series of the SMT series focuses on a different aspect of culture or life. So you have like the Soul Hacker series, which is more like techno and like how the internet affects us a little bit. You've got the Digital Devil Saga. Again, it's more of a thought-provoking process on like post-apocalyptic kind of thing, along with the mainline series. But the Persona series specifically takes it from a side where it's more about how you grow into who you are. So the game series are more about teenage life. So the first two in particular have their own stories that are like self-contained and they're about specific characters. What makes the second side of things, 3, 4, and 5, so interesting is that they twist the formula and they combine it with a dating simulator, so to speak. But the interesting thing is the dating simulator, how well you do in that part affects your growth with the kind of personas or the demons you can use to fight throughout the rest of the game. So if you do very poorly on that, leveling your demons becomes hard because you get no bonuses. It's hard to make certain ones. You kind of cap yourself. And what I love about that series so much is that it takes JRPGs, but it also applies real life to them in a way that's like, do you mess up your relationship with this person? Do you focus on studying? And it like you just kind of build it all up to this, and each one, especially 3 and 5 for me specifically, have such great endings that it's just like, man, you just sit there like, how do I process this? And for me, if I had to decide on favorites, I would edge five slightly above three. But three was that game where it's just like, man, I did all this. I basically saved the world, and then everything crashes out. And just like, what do I process? And it just reminds you that life is fleeting, but the journey of life is the beauty of it. And that's kind of the art imitating life kind of aspect of Persona 3 for me that will always make it one of my favorite games. And then 5 kind of takes that same concept and says, how do I fight against all the bullshit that life throws at me? And if you know anything about being black, it's constantly, how do I fight the bullshit life throws at me more
Yep.
than anything else? And Persona
Mhm.
5 is basically just built on that thread where it's just like, bad shit keeps happening to you. How do you push forward? Another bad shit happens to you. How do you push forward? It happens. Let's keep going. We're just gonna keep letting it rock and just push forward. So it's like the beauty of that section of the SMT series, the Shin Megami Tensei series, to me, just so beautiful because like it takes it from again this kind of adolescent thought process where it's like, I am just a high schooler trying to graduate and move on with life, and the world wants to go and get fucked up. Like, what do I do? How do we push forward? And to me, I think that is what life is for so many people. That it's just again art imitating life, and those games will just always hold such a special place in my heart. And it doesn't. And it also helps that the soundtracks are just banger. Like if you're talking about a banger soundtrack, those soundtracks slap. Like I have them on vinyl. Those soundtracks slap. But yeah, that's gonna be number what 6 for me here.
One quick thing to add to Persona, because that's also one of my faves as well. Though I didn't put it on my top 10 because I didn't want to double up on everything there. But I also like with that kind of dating sim aspect that it isn't focused on the, oh, hey, here's some fan service, so on and so forth. It's focused on trying to understand people because it's not just, oh, hey, you're just trying to get a girlfriend or a boyfriend or whatever. It's, your friendships that you're building up as well along the way. And I like the way that they present it. It's more of a, hey, yeah, you can get through the game without, interacting with other people and so on and so forth. But if you do, you get that much more of a rewarding experience. And that can also be said about life as well. If you take that time to understand others, to really connect with other people, then your life is generally speaking going to be more enjoyable overall. So I think they did a great job with that message.
If you want to get somewhere fast, go alone. If you want to go somewhere far, go together.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Facts. All right, Cal, Dev, who wants to go hit me with their number 5 here?
I'll go ahead and take this one. So speaking about connections and so on and so forth, so I'm gonna go with another one that's not as well known. The World Ends With You, also known as Twiwi, because it's just such a long title there. So take a character who pretty much says, hey, you know what? Screw it. I don't want to deal with other people. People are annoying. People are trash. You can never really understand what they're doing. They're going to betray you, treat you poorly, so on and so forth. And then drop a person into basically a death game and say, hey, congratulations. You got to go and work with somebody, to get through all of this. Good luck. And you're going to continue doing that until you finally figure out that you need other people in life. Put that on steroids. And that's basically the game. You get all sorts of cool powers and so on and so forth. The music is absolutely amazing for the game. Matter of fact, before I had access to the soundtrack, back when I used to have my car, I had a connector to my speaker to my DS just so I could go and play the music from the game while I was riding to and from work. Just because some of the songs were that much of a bop there. But it, for me personally, who kind of understands that, yeah, I'm not the greatest when it comes to dealing with a lot of people all the time. I'm an introvert. I like my own alone time. That game kind of spoke to me and again kind of told me like, hey, you need to go and have connections with other people if you one want to survive and two thrive in life. So
Again, like Cal said, if you want to get somewhere quickly, go by yourself. If you want to go forward, go with people. That's a bar.
mm-hmm.
That's a bar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's not me. That's an African proverb that I've
It's still a bar.
paid attention to. Like that's nah. So I'm to even go along with that with mine. It's Wasteland 3. Um, I accidentally stumbled upon this game. Um, Obviously it was 3, so I was curious. I looked into the series, and bro, it's literally a situation as to where it's like again, post world falling apart. You got to lock in with who you can lock in with. You're trying not only to defend a city, you're trying to protect an area and trying to respond to a essentially an emergency call to figure out a status report for what's going on in a specific area. This is a turn-based situation. Um, and me personally, like they allow you to create 2 players. If you're playing by yourself, they allow you to create 2 players. Um, and I created like somebody who's with the shits from mid range with SMGs, automatic assault weapons, blah blah blah. And then I made somebody called Whisper, who is a sniper person who like maxes out stealth. And they're a glass cannon, but they're far away. This game is fantastic because not only does it dive into you having to actually pay attention to your partner who's ready for what, but it shows what again another one of these situations what it looks like when society breaks down. And I'm always interested in this because everybody, Mike Tyson said it best, everybody has a plan so they get punched in the mouth. So like seeing this and playing it through, trying to build up a party and everything else like that, everybody thinks they're going to be some weird Chuck Norris ass motherfucker when stuff goes left. You're not like that, bro. More times than not, did you drop out of school before 11th grade? You got a weird case on your jacket as to where you can't operate around children? You're cannon fodder. That's what you are. That's what the military recruits. They have no problem employing you poor white boys from these trailer park situations. You think that it's us. It's not us. Y'all are going first. Out there to pasture. They're doing you like they did Old Yeller. If you don't understand the reference, you probably deserve to be cannon fodder. With that being said,
Not old Yeller, my dude. Oh, this man
y'all are
said
nice.
old Yeller.
I'm in between y'all in my school. These niggas is nice. I'm not. I'm gonna tell you what's happening. You deserve to get that. With that being said, you have situations as to where you have to like save people, provide provisions to individuals, may have to make some type of sacrifices while also maintaining the upkeep of your military wagon and things like that. It's a beautiful game. Beautiful game. Played it on PS4 off of a sale. It was worth nothing. It was like $1.99. It's the third one of them. They got multiple of them. This is where I come in, where I'm like, realistically, everything can happen. Nothing can happen, but also everything can happen. I feel like that was a beautiful game because realistically, a lot of y'all motherfuckers ain't making it. My other game that's not making it is Division 2. I still actively play Division 2. Still to this day. I feel like it's one of the best narrative storytelling devices when it comes to what this thing looks like. The reason I put this here instead of that is because it's a very isolated, it's not necessarily a platformer. They kind of just keep you in a certain area until you figure some shit out. For real. Um, yeah, Wasteland 3. It's phenomenal. Play it, figure it out. See if you're gonna make it when the pillars start collapsing. I don't think a lot of y'all will, respectfully. But go ahead, Jason.
No, and you know what? I'm actually going to bounce off of you talking about society collapsing. I'm going to take it to a more fantasy route, but my next series is for me is going to be one. It's going to be two games. One of them is considered the best RPG of all time, and the other one is considered one of my favorite RPGs of all time. So, both from the same series. I'm talking about Chrono Trigger and Chrono Cross. So, Chrono Trigger is basically what happens when you give a time traveler the capability to see society collapse. Now, society collapses due to, a what the fuck from outer space, but you know, you you get to see what happens, and that game is like 20, if that 20 hours long, but somehow these geniuses at Square in the good old 90s found a way to give you one of the best RPGs that you can beat in like a weekend. Like these guys, again, it's just, again, it is to this day considered one of the top 3 RPGs, not JRPG, not action RPG, no, RPG, the whole genre. It gives you, just lets you know what kind of game we're cooking with here. And Chrono Triggers, again, the charm, everything was drawn by Akira Toriyama, who drew Dragon Ball Z. Like that game is just, they took the concept of time travel and just did it right. And that's also why I love Chrono Cross, the sequel to the game. A lot of people think Chrono Cross is convoluted, but I think a lot of people miss the point. Chrono Trigger and Chrono Cross take time travel, the concept of time travel, in 2 different directions. Chrono Cross is your stereotypical, if I go back to the past, I get to change the future, yada yada, so on and so forth. Chrono Cross is multiverse theory. What happens if you change something, but it wasn't supposed to be changed, and now you have a different outcome? So they're both aligned with some of the characters, and it's crazy because the director was like, they had to essentially, when they remastered it for the DS and like PlayStation version, he had to add some extra stuff to get people to understand that these games are connected, because he had to throw in some extra stuff, throw in a few more clues, and clean up a couple endings. But yeah, like that, those game series made just, especially Chrono Cross, made me think so much. It taught me what multiverse theory was before people were even thinking about multiverse. Like, oh man, the amount of hours I spent just trying to understand the theory behind time travel, like scientifically, what people try to, like, the self-consistency principle and all that, like that made me try to understand science in a different degree, just because Chrono Cross is just that levels of deep. And again, the characters, I love it. Music is great also. But that game series to me is just one of those games where, especially like Chrono Cross, if you sit there and dive into it, you just think a lot. And then the Chrono Trigger is just one of those ones where you can be quick. The story is beautiful. It's consistent. It's also one of the I think it's considered the first RPG to have New Game Plus. Don't quote me on that, but I think it's considered the very first RPG to do it.
And where did you play it originally?
So this is a bit convoluted. My my cousins had a Super Nintendo. It initially came out on Super Nintendo in like 94, something like that. I don't remember, but I didn't get to consistently play Chrono Trigger until it came out on the DS. However, thanks to the good old power of the internet and, again, emulation, I played it on my computer several times in the early 2000s. Chrono Cross was on the PlayStation 1. I actually owned that game on the PlayStation 1 until my version of the Game Apocalypse happened. We're not going to get into it, but, I lost my copy of the game, and they just remastered it again, Chrono Cross, which is on Steam now. They remastered it like 2 years ago. So I'm going to re-enjoy playing that through again. But yeah, Chrono Cross specifically, also the battle system is still relatively unique even to this day. So like, I highly recommend both games. Chrono Trigger, again, is relatively quick and super fun. Chrono Cross is a little more heavy, with especially with some slightly darker themes, but it's still a very very good game to me. So that's going to be number 7 on my list.
All right. So I'll go ahead and take a shot here. I kind of, if you guys are okay with it, I want to hit my 7 and 8 back to back.
Go for it.
So first one, the entire Dot Hack series. So think about where we are now when it comes to gaming. You know, where we have a lot of games where you can use VR. We have a ton of different MMOs out there. We are also very connected to the internet. We have so many different things that run off of an internet connection and AI and so on and so forth. This game essentially talked about that almost, what, 20, 25 years before we got to that point. Uh, so it's a game that takes place where you are actually a player playing an MMO, and in your world, this other alternate version of, Earth. Everything is so connected to the internet that all it takes is one person to just try to hack one little bit, and you can cause chaos over the world. The entire game, you are basically stuck in that MMO because of how connected things are when it comes to VR headsets, which is also one of the reasons why, I kind of look at VR and I'm like, I don't know how I feel about it, you know. But they have what's called a dive system where basically mentally you are diving into the game. You are fully connected. Everything that you feel in the game, you're feeling, for real for you. Anyway, but I love the fact that it really talks about if you were put into a situation where you were given all sorts of powers and so on and so forth, and the freedom to do whatever you want, what type of person are you going to end up being? Are you going to still follow the morals that you've lived with all of your life? Are you going to take advantage of people just because you now have the power to do so? Are you going to try to protect someone else because you feel that it's right? It really makes you sit there and ask those types of questions. Especially when you have that risk of, if you do one wrong thing and get caught out in one wrong place, it could end your life and everything in reality. Uh, Basically, you lose your connection to your body. You're basically a vegetable at that point. So there is risk involved. But it really makes you question you as a person. Uh, that said, moving into my other pick, the Near series. That is another one that really makes you question, what is a person? What is a human being? Is it the flesh and blood that you have? Is it the bone? Is it the skin? Is it your thoughts? Is it your emotions? Is it the actions that you take? Um, for the first game in that series, it really makes you sit there and look at the definitions of a human being, as well as just a thinking being as well, and where we draw those lines. Matter of fact, there is a um, paradox, the Theseus paradox, also known as the ship of Theseus, if you've ever heard of that, where basically you have this big ship, and if you were to replace, one of the boards for that ship, is it still the ship of Theseus? What if you replace another board? What if you replace the sails? At what point do you draw the line and say, this is no longer the ship of Theseus? And vice versa, if you take all of those pieces of the old original ship of Theseus and then build it somewhere else, put them all together, is that now the ship of Theseus? Or is it something else entirely? This game makes you question that, and it makes you question yourself as a human as well. Same thing for the Near Automata series. Uh, it does the reverse there. So if you took the pieces and put them somewhere else, is it the ship of Theseus? It takes that half of the question there, and it really makes you think.
and doing it all with some banger soundtracks yet again.
And I had the vinyl for that for both games on that one.
But yeah, no. Before we get to our final stretch of games here, like again, it's the thought provokingness of a lot of the games we're growing up with and we've enjoyed. Will we continue to see these games? I hope so. It's just a matter of how do we maintain the art in gaming? And again, this is part of why I wanted to talk about it. Just kind of spitball some of our favorite games and why you like them. So with that said, go ahead. You're down to your last four, Cal, and me and Devin are down to our last three. Let's do it.
Both of these are football games, so I'm gonna get them out the way really quick. Uh, Before I step away respectfully for a second, NCAA football '06. This is one of those. It's a situation as to where you actually get to play a student. You get to do shit like take a haircut, whoop-de-boop. It really and truly immerses you into the lifestyle of a college football player. Period. And you have to lock in. You got to still get your grades, bro. And then you get that, and then you get the opportunity. Mind you, it's not necessarily like the same thing nowadays as to where like the transfer portal is open. It's nothing like that. But at the time, that shit hit. With that also being said, NFL Street was like that. Because at the end of the day, you're looking at the gameplay of something like Madden, right? And it's like, oh, Madden, nothing's wrong with Madden. Everybody's involved, blah, 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 it's lit. You have a situation that's where a running back can run up a goddamn wall, catch a pass with one hand, come down, linebackers trying to hit him, shut up, and stiff arm an all pro middle linebacker, shut up, we're not going. It's like, all right, cool. Music was there. They had the game breakers as well. These are like culturally defining things that were actively happening at the time. Because no, we didn't get that. Like it wasn't a level of parody, I guess is the best way that I can say this. You didn't get that. You didn't get the like Mad TV version of the NFL like you actually got there. You have an individual like Michael Vick who we knew was broken in Madden. And then Michael Vick is like pump faking. You're jumping because you're like, I have to block a pass. And he takes 2 steps up a wall. And in your brain, you're like, the fuck is this? What is he doing? And he throws it across his body to a wide receiver. It's like it was a level of gaming experience that was dope. That showed you that anything can happen. If it's football, college, pro, anything can happen. And I love that.
Yeah, the NFL Street Series was the seasoning, extra oomph to
Yeah,
that series of games.
because Madden don't nobody's poo pooing on Madden whatsoever. Madden was in the era of cone passing, so like you, Brett Favre and Tom Brady had a cone like this. Mike Vick had a cone like this. McNabb had a cone like this, and all of this fun stuff. But it was just fun to run up against a dumpster and throw it off your right arm. And it's like, hey, the shit hits. Again, music was phenomenal, made me looking at people. I think this was, if not this, it was like Def Jam that made me get put onto David Banner.
Oh, that
Well,
was probably. I think that was Def Jam.
I think it was Def Jam. I think it was Def Jam.
That was also that was an era of gaming, man. Any concept was a game.
Basically.
You could
Oh,
just hear it, but again, there's a level of love that's in there. And no matter how much I love, like NBA Street, for instance, um, because that was great music there as well. NFL Street was just different because they just took the reins off you and they just let you do what you wanted to do. Tom Brady wasn't supposed to be scrambling. Mind you, he would slip if he would step on a wall in a weird way. But like Tom Brady could get that bitch there though. but it's just love, man. It's love. I miss that. I miss
The fun
NBA Jam type of video games
Mm.
that were happening. Like the He's on
On
Fire.
fire.
Like
for 3
I miss that. Like that's just insane bullshit. Like that's video games need a part of them dedicated to that.
to just
Just
fun.
being yeah, just being ridiculous, bro. But that's
Yeah,
me.
like we've definitely talked about a lot of heavy games, but like at the same time, like you said, some games just were just fun. Like they didn't need
Yeah.
to be anything super crazy. You're just gonna run around, do some silliness, and just have a load of fun. And
And what's his face? Ricky Williams, because Ricky Williams was smoking weed around that time. He was a running back for the Dolphins. And Ricky Williams in NFL Street, he was out here catching you like this, up against the wall. Shut up, Devin. And you dove with all of your shit. Shut up. And you're like, oh
nah,
damn, I didn't like, bro. We need that. We need a level of ridiculousness in it. I forget what the game is called. Um, dang, I forget what the game is called. To where like everybody got infected with some zombie bullshit off of a soda. And you
Oh,
went on power lines. Um, damn, I forget what the name of the game is.
you're not
But
talking about
it's
like no, it's not. I'm thinking it's not Dead by Daylight. I'm thinking something else. Dying Light maybe.
no Dying Light
mm.
they were doing like parkour and shit like that going.
Hmm.
This was like, damn, I'm forgetting.
Are you talking about the one where you also are also in a mall for a while as well? That game series.
No, that's it's not Dead Space. I know what you're talking about, but no,
No, Dead
Oh,
Space is the one
in
in
space.
space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, no, I know what you're talking about because you got the dude in the mall with a fucking chainsaw or like a
Yeah.
hoe. But no, I'm forgetting
That's
what
the
this
Max
is.
Payne series, I think, Devin.
No, that's a different game altogether.
Okay. But yeah, no, like there's again, just that thought process that would make you think of other games is crazy. Well, I'll go next because I've got 3, y'all got 2 left.
Yeah, let me see.
I'm gonna shift genres slightly to one of my favorite series of all time, The Legend of Zelda. I know y'all been listening to this for a while and no one's brought up a Legend of Zelda game yet. Here it is. But I'm gonna zone in specifically on one particular Zelda game for me that defined my childhood. Like, I actually sucked at Zelda games until I beat this particular one first, and then it all clicked. For me, it's Link's Awakening, also known as Legend of Zelda DX, if you played it on the Game Boy Color.
Mm-hmm.
But Link's Awakening was the one for me that I had that. I remember when I first got my Game Boy Color, because I had it before the Game Boy Color came out. Well, it was technically remade for the Game Boy Color, the DX version was, but yeah, that game to me was just I spent every waking meeting beating it, rebeating it, finding all the hearts, doing everything I can, beating all the mini games, trying to stealing stuff from the guy and then having your name changed to the word thief. Whatever your name was, if you stole from the shopkeep, your name became thief afterward, and you could never go back to that shop again if you wanted a perfect run. Like that game for me, like again, when I was a kid, I never had a console. My cousins had them. My older brother had one or had them, but I never got my own console until I was an adult. I bought my first console, like my first completely owned console. I bought my first brand new console I bought when I was 20 was a PS4. But the first console I ever owned was when I bought a Fate. It was Craigslist at the time. I met someone at the college, bought a PS3 off of him via Craigslist, but I didn't own my own brand new console until I was like 20. So one thing my mom would always get me would be a Game Boy. I always had a Game Boy or a DS or something, but I would never have an actual console that I owned by myself until I was an adult. So that Game Boy and eventually that Game Boy Color, hours of car rides, being by myself in my room, like anything. Link's Awakening started it all for me, and along like that, along with like Pokemon Red, just those have a place in my heart where it's just like just the hours of alone time playing those games, just trying to be perfect, beating it as quickly as I can with a perfect run, not dying, like memorizing boss patterns. It, I never beat Ocarina of Time without beating Link's Awakening. I don't beat many puzzle games until learning how to beat Link's Awakening. That game just holds way too much significance for me to not be on this list. Legend of Zelda: The Link's Awakening. And the remake does a beautiful job of putting the pacing, the exact like that game. They just basically said, we're gonna take this game, slap 3D, and upres the frames per second. Here you go. Merry Christmas. That game
Don't need to change anything else.
This is basically a one-to-one recreation. There's a couple things they changed, like the whole photo system, because that's when they tried to do that Game Boy photo gimmick. So they actually, yeah, that was bad. But so they took that out and replaced it with a different like side hustle system, which is like its own dungeon creator. But outside of things like that, that game, they even brought the color dungeon back. It is a 1-to-1 basic recreation. I love The Link's Awakening. That's my number 3. Everyone's got 2 left. Who wants to go?
Cal?
Oh, shit. Okay.
Devin just hit you with the baton pass. He's like, hey.
One of my favorite joints is X-Men Nemesis.
Classic.
Because in the time that it was actually happening, like there was a slight space for like battle royales as far as Marvel was concerned. And that was a situation as to where we got to play through a dystopian situation within Marvel. Being invaded, everything else like that. We got to play with individuals like Johnny Ohm, who's able to manipulate electricity. You got to figure out the gameplay of everything with people like Wolverine, if I remember correctly, and all these other people. I just felt like it was a fantastic game, like a fantastic beat 'em up type deal that we're doing. And it was dope because even and then you get to see, like, I'll be honest, everybody that we know in Marvel is not built for a apocalypse situation whatsoever. And they showed us that. Which is why I'm extremely interested in what Marvel's going to actually do now when they have back um, like Xavier's Mutant, Fantastic Four, XYZ, because a lot of y'all ain't built like that. You're not built for maneuvering through hopelessness like that. And that's where the issue is. And I just felt like Nemesis showed that. They showed who was there, who was ready to step up, who was ready to squabble with people, pack people up, fight, kill enough people to
Bubble up.
get enough answers to figure out a resolution. A lot of y'all aren't like that. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Jason. Because now I'm talking myself into this is the problem. This is the problem. Y'all love these people, but they're not built like that. Last time I remember when Iron Man figured out that Bucky killed his parents, Captain America and fucking Bucky had to jump Iron Man to get him packed out. Mind you, this is one of the main reasons I don't fully trust any New York nigga. Jazo, I fuck with you. But I don't fully trust any New York nigga because it just takes a certain thing for them to like alchemize some fuck shit. And it's like, all right, cool. Jazo, I ain't saying I can whip you. I'm just simply saying it's not going to be an easy out. Because at the end of the day, why the fuck are you jumping me when this bitch ass nigga killed my parents? The fuck is the issue, nigga?
Have you ever watched any of the videos on the YouTube channel How It Should Have Ended?
No.
No, you should watch those. Specifically, the one for that's Civil War. Yeah, Captain America: Civil War. You should watch that one specifically because he's the guy basically does exactly what he's talking about. He's just like, basically, he's like, "Yo, I did this. It was like you would love that ending just because it's like
I'll watch it because
And
I know if we popped up and you were like, you as Jason was like, I can't remember killing your parents, and Devin's like, don't do it. He can't remember. I'm hootie hoo. I'm calling gang members. These two niggas ain't jumping me. Nope, nope, nope. I'll squat. When my niggas get here, we packing up and we answering all questions. No, we're not doing this. That's weird, bro. That's weird. I don't fuck with that shit.
yeah,
But
again, that YouTube channel how it should have ended. They tackle that one, and basically they resolve it in a better way. But he's just like, bro. Basically, the way he does it is like Captain America's like he was mind controlled, and Bucky jumps in like, hey, no. I'm a man. I can do this. I can apologize. I did that. Yes, it was mind control, but I did that. But we're not gonna let him control how we handle this. And Iron Man's like, you're right. And they just take the dude out and arrest him. Like,
not doing this, man. We not doing
Logical people, crazy.
it's like, hey, yes, we're gonna resolve it ourselves, but we're not letting you over there play us. Like,
no. But
uh,
again, that's Nemesis was an excellent X-Men game for me. There was an X-Men game that I can't remember to where Nightcrawler was able to actually teleport. Because I played it in Toys R Us and I can't remember it. But like Nemesis was dope. I can't hold you. That was a fire game. That was one of those things that I played through the campaign multiple times. Um, yeah, and that was another one of those joints. I was playing it while I was stuck at church with my parents doing Bible study, and I'm just going through it with different people. But no, that's one of my favorite joints, and I wish they would do something like that again. But I know, like in our generation, actively as adults, the whole Fox thing, impeding on Marvel thing, we really can't get that whole Marvel experience. But I'm just glad they figured that out, whatever that is. Um, because yeah, I just want my shit back, bro. I don't know what to tell you. I just want my shit back. That's it.
hey man, I feel
So
you. It was X-Men Legends 1 and 2 were bangers. Go ahead,
Fire.
Devin.
Yeah.
so I just want to go and say really quick. I know you didn't mean the pun, but when you said excellent X-Men game, I was like, did he choose those words particularly? Because I'm like, gotta give him to him.
Aha!
And that's fire. But even I will say this. I want a real Daredevil game.
Yeah.
I want a real Daredevil game. Bro is blind. You have to operate off of sensory deprivation. That type of stuff. I
There
would
is
love that.
there is a game they made fairly recently. It's not Daredevil, but you play as a blind
Yeah.
no,
I
you
know.
play as a deaf guy. So you
Yeah,
can't hear people. And then
yeah.
I think this a feature in like the new game plus where like you can start like reading their lips properly so that you can actually get the subtitles to pop up and it changes the whole like vibe of the game once you
That's what made me want the real Daredevil. Because I was like, oh, this is possible. So y'all know how to do this. Like
Mm.
that's what I want. I want it to be a situation as to where like, bro, your screen is black, and until you make like ding something and see the radio waves or the sound waves, that like I want that. That would be fire. Like because again, Daredevil deserves a great game, bro. We have never seen a great Daredevil game. Devin, correct me if I'm wrong. Jazo, correct me if I'm wrong. We've never seen like a great boom. He dings it. You see the sound waves go. The enemy's over there. Go get him. We've never seen that. We have great
Yeah,
Batman
no.
games with
Hmm.
Arkham and stuff like that. I want to see that. That's all. That's all.
yeah.
Yeah, you're right. We haven't had one uh, at all. Well, we have had Daredevil games, just nothing to that extent. And I think we're in a time that they could definitely pull it off.
Yep. All right. Well, we got a couple more to go here. I'm gonna go ahead and go next. All right. Sorry, Devin. I'm gonna knock out the twofer here. You've been taking
Hey,
all the
go
other
for it.
twofers, so I'm gonna take this twofer.
Hmm.
The next one is gonna be Kingdom Hearts 1, 2, and for me, Chain of Memories, but Devin's just got 1 and 2. So the Kingdom Hearts games, who would have ever thought as a kid you would get to see a game where they just basically combine Final Fantasy and Disney characters and say, here you go. And it's going to become one of the best franchises ever. Like, I remember the first time hearing my cousin telling us, oh, they're making a game with Disney characters. I was like, what the hell? Imagine. This game, Kingdom Hearts 1 came out in like 2001. So, like, I was like 8, 7. Like, when you're hearing about the rumors that they're doing something, and you're just like, there's no way. And then you hear that opening. Utada Hikaru starts singing on your screen. You're like, I was not prepared. This music is banging. Why is this gameplay good? Although Kingdom Hearts 1 doesn't really hold up. It's kind of glitchy. But at the time,
it was good.
Yeah. But again, you just see that cinematics. Remember when Square Enix used to do cinematics? Like the first two Kingdom Hearts are just absolute bangers. We know we're gonna get Kingdom Hearts 4 eventually, but those games, man. And now we have the full story of my gamertag. My gamertag is generally Chaos Persona, part Xenosaga, part Persona, and the combination is because of what Riku says at the end of Chain of Memories when he talks about walking towards the twilight into dawn. Like, that is why I have my gamertag. If Kingdom Hearts doesn't exist, I'd have a different gamertag. So there it is. That's the rest of the story for everyone who's made it this far. Go ahead, Devin. You can talk about why you love Kingdom Hearts. I'll let you take the long and flow of it.
So for me, as someone who grew up around Disney for most of my life, because my mom used to work for Disney, among many of her other jobs, I also worked for Disney. So when I was a kid, I know most kids were like, oh man, I wish I could go to Disney once. Me, I was the one who, oh hey, my mom was still at work late and my stepdad, had to go and pick up my brother, from school or go to a track meet for him. He would just go ahead and drop me off, in Animal Kingdom until my mom got off of work and I just get to roam around Disney. So for everyone else, it was like a surprise. For me, it was, okay, this is my Tuesday afternoon, So at that point, I was kind of already starting to get a little burnt out of Disney because it was always in everything. And then Kingdom Hearts came around and somehow managed to go and make something that I already loved, which was JRPGs, and managed to make me enjoy Disney again. It made me look at it in a different way. It also surprised me that Disney allowed some of the things that were starting to toe the line with some darker, topics there.
Old Disney was popping up for a little bit there.
Right. So I definitely enjoyed that. The cinematics, yes, absolutely loved it. I wasn't as much of a fan of Chain of Memories.
Chain of Memories is my shit, bro. Again, I had a Game Boy. That was the only thing I had. They popped Chain of Memories on freaking Game Boy Advance. I was in there 24/7.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely enjoy the game as a whole. I got into the original Kingdom Hearts pretty late. I ended up playing the first game about 2 weeks before Kingdom Hearts 2 came out. Mm-hmm. So for most people, they had a huge gap, between the first and the second, and you didn't even know there was going to be a second game because of how they ended that installment there. For me, I'm like, you know what? Let me go ahead and pick it up really quick. I played that, got through it. I'm like, oh man, this is great. Oh hey, let me go get my pre-order really quick for Kingdom Hearts 2, and immediately pop that in with no gap whatsoever. And then it taught me in life patience. Because from that point onward, I waited, another 13 years until Kingdom Hearts 3. And I feel like Kingdom Hearts 4, look, I'm just expecting 20 plus years, I'm thinking that, I might have kids at that point. I might, be an old man with, kind of sitting in my rocking chair like, oh, I remember when Kingdom Hearts 3 came out. Oh, wait, Kingdom Hearts 4, all right, let's go.
I cannot
I'm just saying,
with you, sir.
I'm just saying, I'm fully expecting it. I've embraced this at this point.
Hey man, if you had played Chain of Memories when it came out, you would have known about Kingdom Hearts 2.
True. And then Cal, you want to go ahead?
I will say this. This slightly brings us back to our earlier conversation. There's no reason for us to be made to wait this long when it comes to great video games. All you have to do is just give us what we're asking for with an updated, even if you want to do updated UI, updated functionality, things like that. This is why this brings me right back to the Canadian. Sit down. Sit down for 5 years. Nobody's rushing you. Just sit down. With that being said, I'm going to be honest. This right here, Borderlands 3, which is my last game, I am so much so of the camp of just sit the fuck down, shut the fuck up, and give us our shit, bro. It's not even complicated. Borderlands 3 was fucking phenomenal. Even when it comes down to like the types of weapons that were there and their usage, and you can be kind of like, this shit is ass, throw it away. And then you pick up another gun, and for some reason, this works a little better on this level. But it may work better on another level. It's just up to you to pay attention to see if you should keep it or not. This, again, this is a couch co op situation. That's how I experienced it. It was fucking fantastic, Devin. It was fucking fantastic. So I'm playing with my old lady. We moving. I got a different type of build than she does. Boom. We calculating fucking people up. Please do not take this out of the industry. Because in all honesty, this separate console shit, it's cool, I guess. But in application, it doesn't really work like that. Because y'all think y'all make better games than what you actually make. Because realistically, look at the games that have come out this year. Are any of these joints memorable that you would put in your library, Devin or Jason? Like that you would actually, okay, cool, this goes into the backstop.
You know what? I feel like that should be the topic of our next episode because that could be another 2+ hours. Because we're at
My bad.
that could be
My bad.
no. It's a very good question. We probably should make that our next episode right before the holidays. But it is as a kind of end of year retrospective on gaming. But that is a
And
very good question, and we should
we're
hold on
right
to that.
close to Christmas. And there's the majority of it is it even in your Christmas list? For real, for real? Like
If I
as
don't already
grown
have
adult
it,
people who can buy your own games, are the majority of these that they've given to you this year, are they even like, damn, I'm gonna get that for myself for Christmas?
any of the games I don't already have, maybe
No.
there's one I might get, but I'm waiting for the episodes to finish. So
But you grew up, both of y'all grew up in an era as to where it's like, Devin, you said, boom, from a video game and video renting place, you had like a bevy of options. Jazo, you had a situation as to where you're looking at it like, yeah, I need to get this, I need to stock up on this. Why does this year feel so empty? Like we just passed Black Friday. You didn't even get a new game on Black Friday. You got something old off of a purchase.
yeah,
Where is the enthusiasm for new shit? There is none. Because it's this weird thing as to where it's like, we need to make the most money off of it. Should we re-release that? Should we give us a great game, bro? It's not fucking hard. Jesus Christ.
yep. I think we're gonna definitely follow up that question for next week's episode. But that said, we got 2 more games left. One from me, one from Devin. No, but again, Cal, we're definitely going to come back to that one for sure because that is a very good question. That's probably going to take us another almost 2 hours to answer. So let's let it rock. Devin, you want to go?
No, you go ahead first.
All right. So my final game, I'm going to speak a little Japanese here just because I learned it that way. My final game is going to be Seigen Dengetsu 3. For anyone who doesn't know anything about Squaresoft games, a la Square Enix now, this is the series that was also known as the Mana series. This game is called Trials of Mana. This game actually just got recently remade and remastered, I want to say like 5-ish years ago. But I'm talking about the original Super Nintendo, Sega Negetsu 3. If you live in the West Coast and or sorry, the Western world and you've played this game, you probably played it via an emulator. And this game was fantastic. It's very short, again, just like Chrono Trigger. You could probably beat it in a weekend, but basically, I this is my final game because of all the times I spent replaying this game with my older brother. It just connected us through a time where things were relatively rough. We had a computer, we had lots of times on our hands. Things were kind of rough in our family, and that game is one of the many games that me and my older brother emulated that got us through a lot of really really rough times. Game in itself is fairly simple. There are 3 different story paths, 6 characters, 2 characters per story, and depending on who you pick as your main character, that that tells you what story you're going down. The cool thing is that it's a couch co-op game where you can play with 2 people, but it's a 3-person party. So one of your party members is always controlled by a CPU. So it's lots of stuff you can do. Each character had basically multiple like transformations or class changes that they can go through, one light and dark and stuff like that. But that game was just very replayable. It just reminds me of a lot of great times I had with my older brother when times were not as rough. Well, times were rough, but things were simpler, and just lots of couch co-op gaming. So that's why Trials of Mana is also kind of why I feel the way I feel about the gaming industry in this day and age, because it just again it brought me and my brother together when things were rough, and that will always be a cherished game for me. That's my last one. All on you, Devin. You get to wrap things up.
So I have a preamble prepared for this one, for
Uh
my
oh.
last pick. So, ladies, gentlemen, and interesting miscellanea, my beloved friends and tolerated acquaintances, the FBI's most and least wanted, the discerning guests, and those of you with fuck all else to do on a Thursday evening, and most importantly, mothers and fuckers of the jury. May I present you with the final pick on my list, the series Art's Own Liko. So many people, they don't really have this on their radar because many people took one look at the screenshots of the game, racked it up as just simple fan service, really remembering some of the dating sim-esque portions and calling it a day. Others tried out the combat and just couldn't pick up the mechanics because unless you really understood how music works, like reading actual, music sheets and so on and so forth, it was going to be kind of confusing. Uh, while the game series on itself isn't on par with like your Final Fantasies or your Tales of series games, I do feel that it brings a wonderful job of making stories, language, and songs matter not just to you as the player, but to the characters within the story themselves. So with a lot of games, any of the background music that's playing, the characters don't actually hear that. That's just for you as the player. In this game, the songs actually define the actual physics of how their world works. The stories that are told guide all of the politics and everything that's going on in different areas around that world and how it's built. Uh, Everything kind of wraps back into the game as opposed to just being there for you to experience. It's for you to experience as well as the characters to experience. Um, they do deep dives into how languages work and how people have developed writing and different writing systems, which the game itself has like 6 different languages that you can actually go ahead to a wiki and see the writing for all of them and actually write actual documents with those different ones because they put that much time into studying languages for the game. They dive into real life theoretical physics and then combine that with, the ideas for like magic and so on and so forth, as well as tying in how songs can be used to manipulate physics and magic and so on and so forth. Again, kind of touching on some of the theory of physics in real life as well. They had well-developed stories and myths that, guide the politics. The game series was trying to move down a less traveled path during the time that it was released. And honestly, while I don't think that they'll ever do a remake, the fact that they had three main games on the PS2. They had one game on the PS3, and I believe they had one game that was on the PS4 as the final one. Uh, it definitely had enough there, and it definitely had enough of a following. Funny enough, I actually have a copy of the game here on my desk. So it just sits there, taking up space all the time.
Good time.
But it was a beautiful game, well done, and I think it definitely deserves a play by anyone who has any interest in JRPGs, as well as just music in general, and music theory.
I will say, I usually hate games made by NIS America, but that's one of the few that I actually enjoyed. Arch and Ellico, especially the first one,
Mm-hmm.
good shit. So yeah, that's gonna be 10 games from each of us, kind of breaking down our history in gaming, along with what games kind of define us and captivated us. In this overarching conversation about culture and how things, whether it's music, an artist like Kendrick Lamar, or games like again, we talk about Final Fantasy, Persona, Arch and Ellico, Madden, NCAA 06. Like the things that captivate us tend to define us as people. And when you have that experience, history, and culture, who knows where you can be even a year or two or 5, 10 years from now. So keep in mind the things that captivate you tend to say a lot about you. So on that note, I will end things off with the quote of the night. It's not necessarily a quote from one person, but it's a very popular gamer quote that if you've done any amount of gaming, you'll know this one. So again, on that note, I don't need to get a life. I'm a gamer. I have lots of lives. I've been your boy John.
Dev.
Cal.
Peace.